Okay, welcome everybody to the June meeting of the North End Neighborhood Council. We've got a little bit of a change of arrangement here. There's some IT problems, but which we're working through. We're also going to try something new. So for the Q&A portion of the main presentation, we're going to have people come up to the microphone rather than run around, because we've had some feedback from the Zoom participants that they can't hear the questions. So with respect to questions to the liaisons, rather than to get through it, we'll just have the liaisons repeat the questions that come up. So with respect to announcements, we have had a change of our vice chair. We have a new vice chair, Deb Anderson. Wave. We'd like to thank Toby Bett for her service as vice chair. She's changed her job arrangement, so she seems to be on the road most of the time. So that's why she's staying on the board, but she wanted to relinquish the vice chair position. That being said, we still have some open positions on the board. So if anybody is interested in joining the board, just reach out to any board member and we'll walk you through the process. It's not a huge workload. On announcements, Sarah Rumbaugh sent her regrets. She can't be here. One of the items that we addressed a few months back was problems with the Bigfoot Pizza change of operation. So I did reach out to the city for an update on that. They sent me an update to say that things had calmed down, and now they've recently not calmed down. So they're studying. They ask that anybody with specific issues, please send in your complaints through the 311 system, and the more detailed, the better. They want to know that there's a problem at 1 a.m. in the morning. That's a big difference than being a problem at 8 p.m. in the evening. So if you can just follow that, if anybody wants the specific information, you can always reach out to me. And Council Member Rumbaugh's staff person, Linda, is fabulous. So if you've ever got any questions, just reach out to her and she'll get back to you. Next announcement, we have a couple of people from Porch Fest who are going to give us an update on Porch Fest. So please come up and...
Hey everyone, I'm Irina with Porch Fest. It's nice to see some familiar faces in the crowd.
I'm Dean.
This is Dean. Dean is a new volunteer with us. We've got new artwork this year. Grab a poster if you would like one. They're going fast. We put some on the doors, but we'll take them down before we leave. Here, I'll go like this. Cool. Okay. Porch Fest is happening July 18th and 19th. It's the exact same footprint as last year. Is anyone not familiar with the festival? Okay. We'll follow up after. We'll catch up after the meeting. But it's a party in the streets, and a lot of people. So if you live in the Porch Fest zone, which is between it's between Hilltop Heritage and Alder, and between North 12th and South and 6th Ave. Consider whether you want to be part of a big party in the streets. You might decide to, go visit friends that weekend. It's going to be on Saturday, July 18th, south of 6th Ave, Sunday, July 19th, north of 6th Ave. Last year, we had 300 bands performing across the 2 days. It's going to be similar. It's going to be about that size. We're working hard to keep it that size, to keep it from growing, because, it's challenging to have that much going on. But we do have a couple events leading up to Porch Fest this year. I was going to print these flyers to hand out, but I noticed the typo, so I'm not going to hand them out. But if you want, what do you call it? Like a mistake version. Sometimes that's a thing. You can grab one. We've got 2 benefit shows coming up with Porch Fest bands performing, all ages, free. June 6th, this Saturday at the Mothership down in South Tacoma, and June 27th at the Lumora, which is a new venue across the street from the Matador downtown. And yeah, there'll be activities for kids. There'll be music. We'll be selling beer. That's the fundraiser part. And then in addition to that, we've got 3 library workshops. We've partnered through Tacoma Creates with the Tacoma Public Libraries. And so the dates are, I have it in my head, June 13th at the Wheelock branch, June 20th and 27th at the main branch. And these are intended for teenagers to adults. They're not for kids. They're not craft activities. Although kids are welcome, there's nothing that kids wouldn't be able to do, but they're targeted more at teenagers and older folks. And we'll be making tape loops. Do you guys know what that is? Tape loops? It's very cool. Yeah. If anyone here was a kid during the 90s, like I was.
Involves cassettes.
Yeah, you take cassette tapes and then you cut a piece out of them and you loop it together so you make a loop. So we're going to be making tape loops that you'll get to then perform at one of the benefit shows if you want, and then again at Porch Fest. So Porch Fest is happening. A lot of will look the same largely, but new this year. I know we're probably short for time. Any quick questions, follow up? I can leave some, yes.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. And NENT supported us the same way last year, and we used it to pay towards our gigantic liability insurance bill. And so thank you. It was a huge help. There will be food vendors. In fact, I think because of the World Cup and just so much going on in the area in the summer, it's been harder for me to find food vendors. So if any of you have a friend or a family member who has a food vendor, you have to be permitted and licensed and in good standing with the health department, take care of the business side of things. I would love to have them get in touch with me, and I would love to have them participate in the festival.
Give a big round of applause.
Cool. Thanks.
And if you want to send us the information, we can post it on our website or send out a message with those specific dates. So those of you who didn't write it down. Okay, moving on to liaison reports. I'd like to invite the police department up. They sent 3 people. They were obviously concerned about, do we have a bad reputation?
Hi, good evening. This microphone kills me. Short people problems. Then I can see you guys if I move it. I'm Officer Christian Brazil. I'm one of your guys' community liaison officers. Officer Wallen's with us tonight as well, and we brought our lieutenant. I'll let them do their own introductions and chat with you guys. I just wanted to give you guys a couple of quick updates citywide. Nothing's really changed from last month. We're still prepping for FIFA. I know she just mentioned it. It's coming week after next.
Friday the 12th.
Friday the 12th is the first, the kickoff. There's going to be a big parade that the tribe is putting on down on Portland Avenue. EQC is one of the official sponsors of FIFA. And so there's going to be a huge parade that happens down on Portland Avenue. The police department is supporting that and assisting. We're going to have about 100 officers working that event. It's kind of all hands on deck for us. So we're just prepping as that gets closer. And then summer's right around the corner, just like we talked about last month. We are doing our emphasis that we run, DUI, street racing, and then we do some targeted emphasis as well into some of the areas that we've identified around the north end that just need a little bit of extra attention. So We'll be conducting those throughout the summer as well. And that's pretty much about it as far as the department goes. That's, like I said, we talked about it last month. There's not a whole lot new coming forward this month, except for all of the prep that we have for all of the events that are coming. And of course, the 4th of July is right around the corner as well, and there'll be the big event down on Ruston Way. So Officer Wallen's got some updates for you guys that were requested for us to share at the meeting. So I will turn it over to him.
All right, good evening. We're asked to answer a few questions about Vision Zero. If you guys aren't familiar with Vision Zero, it's a 15-year plan that started in 2020 to eliminate fatality and serious injury collisions in the city of Tacoma. So a major part of that is roadway engineering. And additionally with that, the police department plays a role in that with traffic enforcement, education, and then through the reports and the enforcement we do also helps to supplement the engineering, because all our collision reports are reviewed by city engineers to see if it's a roadway issue that caused the collision or if the roadway should be updated to mitigate future collisions. So with that, the questions that we're asked is how many officers are assigned to the traffic unit? So we have 5 officers assigned to the traffic unit and 1 sergeant, so a total of 6 commissioned in the traffic unit. Plus, we have 2 DUI cars as well for the department. And then how does that compare to other agencies our size? It's hard to compare because there's not too many agencies our same size, but per capita, I'm sure there's agencies with more traffic than us and agencies with smaller traffic units than us. But what we do to supplement that is we run emphasis like the regional DUI emphasis that many agencies take part in. Additionally, we run street racing emphasis, separate DUI emphasis in the city. And then there's some state grants for like distracted driving, seatbelt, and cell phone specific emphasis that will be run, and patrol officers will supplement the traffic unit to run those emphasis. So although we only have 6 assigned to the traffic unit, during those emphasis, there's multiple officers, and then the target zero, there's multiple agencies involved in those. And sometimes those occur in the city. And then additionally, they occur in other locations throughout the county. And so then what's the plan going forward to help reach the Vision Zero goal? So the biggest part that the police department has is enforcement. So the best way to request enforcement is through the 311 system. And then the 311 that are traffic related go to the we send them to the traffic sergeant, and he handles and allocates the resources. Additionally, those 6 officers in traffic are responsible for all the serious injury and fatality collision callouts, which is a large amount of work to do one of those workups. So that takes quite a bit of their time doing the follow-up on those. The other thing we've done is brought on community service officers that help keep commissioned officers in service. So that has given us some additional proactive time to potentially go out and do additional traffic enforcement. And then we'll continue our safety emphasis. Additionally, we do have a couple speed cameras in the city. There's one by the Emerald Queen Casino and what we call the Bay Street curves as you come into the city from River Road. The other speed cameras are in the school zones, and they're only on during the school hours to enforce the 20-mile-an-hour school zones. And then we do have several red light cameras as well through the city. So there is a potential to get more cameras in the city, and John Hines is working on that. So that's a city council. That comes through the city council to decide if the city will get more of those and where they will go. But there's a change to that to potentially allow additional cameras in the city of Tacoma for traffic enforcement. Was there anything else that you wanted answered? Okay. Yeah, and that's all determined like by volume of traffic. It just can't be placed at a spot. There has to be some research and it has to be justified to put a camera in that location. Yeah. All right. Any question? Yes, got one in the back.
Then I know that there's been a lot of emphasis on what to look out for, but what kind of vapors, or maybe we're running out of an Airbnb or a cabin or something like that, somebody was like, you're at Walgreens, whatever, what can we look for and how can we help get people to safety? I don't even know what cabin looks like exactly.
All right. So the question was, what can we look for human trafficking? Yeah. So I guess the best way is if you think someone needs help, ask them if they need help. It's very difficult to identify human trafficking because the people that do it, unfortunately, have found ways to do it and not get caught, right? So I don't know what else about human trafficking. We do have special investigations that work on that and work with the FBI and other federal agencies to investigate, mitigate that, look online and do all that investigation for human trafficking. And a lot of it is done on the freeway in the I-5 corridor. So a lot of it's done at the investigation is done at the state level as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say with human trafficking, it's a lot like any other thing. So you're going to see something and you're going to think, that just doesn't look right to me. And if something doesn't look right to you, report it. And then we can start the investigation and start looking into it and look and see if it is human trafficking. And if you're seeing a lot of traffic coming and going, they're not staying for very long, that's not typical behavior. So that's a time that you would say, hey, maybe this is something that I should call on and get the ball rolling. It is a very hard investigation because we actually have to have proof. We can't just go running into the house because we suspect it. But if nobody calls and lets us know that maybe something's going on, then we never figure it out. You could even do that through 311 as well. If you're like, hey, there's a lot of activity going on at this house next to me, and then we can kind of take it and figure out what's going on from there. But it's kind of one of those, if you see something, say something, because if nobody notifies us, we just won't know. We're not going to know if we drive past the house, 1 or 2 times throughout our shift. So I think the most important thing is when you feel like something's off, go ahead and let us know about that.
Yes.
You guys are risking, or most of you guys are risking your lives every day. I have 2 questions. Did you guys fill up the positions that you guys are short of? And then if you did, are you guys being mindful of, since DEI has been removed from all government agencies, I believe that representation does matter, and Tacoma is very diverse. Are you guys being mindful of hiring women officers and people of color and not just white men?
Yeah, I'll take him. Yeah. So diversity is very important to Tacoma Police Department. Whether the federal agencies get rid of it, that doesn't mean that Tacoma Police Department has gotten rid of it. So one of the things is, speaking of females, is we have 30 by 30, which is we want by the year 2030, 30% of our department to be females. When I got hired on here, there were very few female officers, and it seems like every year we're getting more and more and more. I'd venture to say we're probably at about 20% now, and it continues to grow. And any other ethnicities, yes, we try to have a department that reflects the community that we live in. We want obviously the best applicants no matter what, but we definitely want to have a diverse department that can reflect different cultures and community members throughout the community. So yeah, it is definitely a priority for the department. That's right.
And to answer the first part of your question, we have filled several of the vacancies. So at one point in time, I think we were down 46, 47 positions. We are, for the first time in years, down to single digits. So currently, right now, as it stands, we have 7 vacancies in the department, which is huge. Yep. It's huge. Yeah, you can thank Chief Jackson for that as well. That was a big push on her end, was to get us staffed back to where we were. Now, granted, there's even if we fill those 7 vacancies today, we still have attrition, right? We're still going to have the retirements, and then it's a constant battle, right? But with that being said, 7 is a very small number compared to where we were 3 or 4 years ago. And it's made a huge difference in the department. It's made a huge difference in the way we are able to staff patrol and some of these other specialty positions that we have. Just giving you a quick example for community policing, for example, we have 4 sectors in the city. Typically, when we were fully staffed, we had 4 CLOs per sector because that's how busy it is. And so it required 4 people per sector to handle all of the community concerns and be able to do all of the community engagement. In all 4 sectors of the city, we only have 2 CLOs, so we're still half staffed. So just speaking on our behalf, giving you an example, once we can get to that full, staffing level again, then we can look at starting to fill some of the gaps that we've had, traffic being one of them. When Luke started, he was in traffic for a long time, and there was 16 officers in traffic.
When I got hired, there was 30 assigned to the traffic unit, and we currently have 6.
So it kind of shows you what it's over time, what our staffing levels have kind of done to some of our specialty units as well. So yeah, it's really a great thing to stand up here and say that we only have 7 vacancies and then we're going to continue to hire. But yes, that to answer the first part of your question, we are hiring. We are kind of lessening that gap slowly but surely, and we'll continue to do that, especially as retirements happen. Yeah. Okay. Was there any other questions? I thought I saw 3 hands.
Any more questions for the police? If not, we're going to give you a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. And I just re-emphasize, they did mention use the 311 system. The city monitors that, and that's how they see where the gaps are that they need to fill in. Next, I'd like to welcome up Alyssa from the parks. You've been seeing Alyssa most months. We've now, because the meetings have been running too long, we're now switching Alyssa to every other month, and then you'll see the fire department 1 month, and then Alyssa the next. So welcome, Alyssa. You're up.
And find my notes. So hi, good evening. Good to see you. I'm Elisa O'Hanlon-Regala. I lead long-range and strategic planning at Parks Tacoma, and it recently occurred to me that because someone thought I was on the park board, that someone may have confused me with Park Board Commissioner Elisa Lee. I'm not her. She's much cuter than me and younger. So yeah, 2 Elisas. First time in my life I've ever had to work with another Elisa, and it's wonderful, but we're not the same person. So I also wanted to acknowledge last time I talked about various reductions that the board is looking at because we have a deficit in our 2026 budget. So the board will be taking action this month to amend the budget so that we'll balance by the end of the year. And one of those is reduced irrigation, watering in our parks. And I talked last time about parks and TPU working together to try and find a way that, because we are their biggest customer, that we're just not robbing Paul or what's the saying, So we continue to work together so that we aren't passing on the cost to the ratepayers. And that is what I neglected to really describe last time, is that is a weaning over time. This year, we have to take the action to cut down that watering cost because it is, oh gosh, we'll be saving $365,000 by reducing our irrigation by about 50% for the remainder of this year. So that's a significant savings. Reducing irrigation is aligned with our climate action plan, with our sustainability goals. So over time, you'll see us trying to replace landscaping that's more sustainable, more native plants. You will probably see some brown grass in the parks this summer, but we'll continue to water areas where there are events planned, summer camps for kids, the summer meal programs. So there will still be green, soft places to play. I do want to continue to say that a couple of weeks ago, with regards to the budget, there was a public hearing. We had over 200 comments received. The vast majority of those with regard to the after-school programs known as Beyond the Bell or Club Beyond. We've been a partner in those programs for many years now, really a lead in many ways. That is a program that is going to see some reductions with this 2026 budget amendment. So there will still be summer camps this summer, but starting in the fall, we will not be participating in the level of those after-school programs that Parks has been. And as soon as the board considers that budget amendment this month, they'll have a first reading with regards to the 26 budget on June 8th. That's next Monday. They'll have their second reading and adoption on June 22nd. Then we roll into planning for the 27-28 budget. And there likely will be community meetings on that in August. So if there are comments that you want to share, thoughts you want to share about our budget for the next 2 years, 27-28, and that's the operating pays for personnel, programs, park operations, then we'd welcome your comments. Any questions? Yes. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, we are monitoring point defiance all the time as well. We are concerned and spend a lot of time educating people. There's not a lot of we don't irrigate the forests. That's natural. And part of that's part of the natural forest progression, and so as well as having water that is available should there be firefighting necessary. I'm not a firefighter, and they're not here this month, but there are ways that you can cut natural breaks, and so that you can manage the risk of fire and the spread of fire should it be a concern. Yeah. Yes, there is. So you can go to the Parks Tacoma website and search for budget. It should be obvious to get the link. And George Schaff is the director of Parks and Recreation. So it would be the director over Parks Maintenance and Operations. I don't have his number off the top of my head. Yes. I would have to ask if we have cisterns that are in operation, but I can find that out. And I'll say, even though I'm only scheduled to come every other month, if there are questions, I certainly can send answers back, or I can come back if you have want to hear specifically. So. Okay, thanks.
And as Alyssa said, she is very good at getting back to email requests. So if you have any questions and if she's not scheduled, I'm sure we'll get an answer. I'd like to ask Christina to come up. I know, is John not here yet? Let me start you up, and then I'll go and grab him.
All night. Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm Christina. You're. Oh, yes. Oh, goodness. Hello. Is that better? Okay. I'm Christina. I'm your liaison from the city manager's office. It's good to see you all. I have just a couple quick updates for you tonight. First, I'm going to start with 2 volunteer opportunities that are open for District 1 seats. The first one is with the Transportation Commission. So the Transportation Commission works on everything that's transit related. I know that's a shock, but yes, all the transit related items. And then they're also going to be helping to implement the transportation and mobility and the Vision Zero plans. And then the second board that also has a District 1 seat open is the Tacoma Creates Advisory Board. So if you have an interest in arts, science, culture, and heritage, this is the board that determines where that funding from Tacoma Creates will go. So both of these vacancies are open until June 22nd. So if you're interested in applying, you can go to the cityoftacoma.gov/CBC application and submit an application for those. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was just that tomorrow night at the city council meeting, there will be a discussion with the council members on community forum. I'm sure Councilmember Hines can speak more to it, but if you have any perspectives you'd like to share on the mayor's proposal, please come down and share your comments or send those in written comments, or you can participate virtually as well. So that's all I've got. And I will introduce Miss Councilmember John Hines.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry. I saw the police outside and wanted to see what was going on, to see if this was a safe environment for me to come into, right? I was like, who called you here? So no, good evening, everyone. Great to have you here. I would introduce myself, but I think everybody knows who I am. A couple updates from the city council. Christina talked about tomorrow. We are doing an update on we're having our first reading on the council rules update related to community forum. The mayor has made a proposal to make some changes to the rules. We'll be talking about it during our council meeting on Tuesday. Council rules is a resolution, which usually only requires 1 reading, but because it's a council rules, it's 2 readings, so it's tomorrow and then next week. So making some changes on timing, how much people get to say, what people can and can't do in the chambers. So some basic rules around that. Council will be discussing that here shortly, for Tuesday and next Tuesday. Let's see. I had a coffee. What's that? Oh, I'll talk about that. Yes, I had a coffee chat on Saturday. Thank you for everybody who came out. I saw some faces that came out for that. That was great. Just a good conversation, hearing issues that people have. I did say at the coffee chat that we're going to be doing a second coffee chat sometime this summer and be looking to do a kind of town hall in the West End neighborhood later in the kind of early fall period. So that'll be exciting. Updates from council. I'm trying to think of a couple things that we got going on. I think the last time I was here, we talked about the roadmap for recovery last time we were here? Probably not. Roadmap to recovery, did we talk about the last time? Okay, I'll do that, and then I'll do that, and then we'll go from there. So since the last time I was here, the city manager did a presentation on his roadmap to recovery. Like most government agencies across the state of Washington, and I guess even across the United States, a lot of us are struggling with budget kind of going ahead. We have an ongoing structural deficit here in the city of Tacoma. Very simply, the cost to provide the services to residents is exceeding our ability to pay for it. And in many cases, it's not more services, it's paying for the services you already receive. So as part of the new city manager's kind of task from the council going ahead, we've asked them to look at what can we do to reduce our costs as a city to better align ourselves with our revenues. That is what he's terming his roadmap to recovery. There's a website that's up that can show you kind of exactly where are the gaps, what are the reductions we're making. You may or may not know we're currently doing a hiring freeze. So we're not hiring anybody except for police and fire, public safety related positions. We are doing reductions in staff, so basically getting rid of as many vacancies as we can, so there's jobs are open, we're reducing those, really tightening our belts as much as we can because we know many of the people in our city are also kind of making those same choices. So that will be a conversation we're gonna have between now and the budget approval process in October. So I would just encourage you to kind of follow along. It's the Roadmap to Recovery website. So that's just I think the biggest conversation we're gonna be having between now and say November. The other thing, Christina reminds me, the pet mayor competition is back. It is now open. If you have a furry friend in your house that would like to be the honorary mayor for a day, you can put them up for election right now. It is free to join, but you need to vote 25 times, which means $25 to begin your animal's candidacy. And it is an election that you can buy. Each vote is $1. And every dollar goes to pay for free and reduced price spay and neuter programs at the Tacoma Humane Society. So that'll be an exciting conversation, something we started last year. I'm very excited. Mayor Nacho's time is down, and now hopefully we'll have a new mayor. And maybe it'll be a different party. Maybe it'll be a dog, maybe it'll be a critter. The cat party is in control right now. Yes. Anything else, Christina, we talked about last time? I think that's about it. Peter, I don't want to take up too much time. Any questions that people have, maybe?
I'll start off.
Oh, yeah.
So some of us were delighted to see your comments about abundance theory in your newsletter. And we didn't hear anything about that in the city manager's roadmap to recovery. Are you going to somehow manage to advocate for abundance theory within that city manager?
Yes. So as Peter knows, I'm a big fan of Ezra Klein and the Abundance book, and I'm actually an Abundance elected fellow at this point in time. I think what attracted me to that program and something I'll be pushing the city manager for is one of the challenges that I have seen is this idea of we spend money, but yet do we see the outcomes on the other side that people expect to see, right? So one of the ways we've tracked our success as a city is that we spend all this money. Like we spent $1 million on this and $2 million on this. And so part of with the city manager moving forward, I'm really going to be pushing for kind of moving away from spending as a metric or the input to what are the outputs we're measuring to see the impacts that we want to see for folks. One of the things I've talked about with the budget is I really want to reduce the amount of impact the average person sees, right? So as much as we can, protect the services that the people can actually see and utilize on the outside, and what can we do to reduce and find efficiencies on the inside. So that's part of it. I think the other piece of that, Peter, would be a big piece of the abundance work as we look forward in the future in the city is how do we get more people doing business, investing here in our city, right? How do we grow the pie as best we can? Yeah? Yes?
You don't have influence over the city manager's salary, but it's just kind of strange that he's making more than the governor of Washington, while at the same time you guys are cutting staff and you guys are working with shortages. That's kind of strange to me, but that's not, you're doing. So I've recently had lunch with Mayor Ibsen, and he was discussing his trip overseas to China and his trip to DC. And he discussed what lessons he got from that. Because I really do believe that our elected officials need to travel to other places so they can, find models that work for them that perhaps can work for us. What was the lessons? Can you share with us?
That he got it from his trip or oh, yes. If we're going to Washington, so the trip I've taken so far is one was DC, and then I went to Denver this last year as part of the abundance, or I did not go to China. Yeah, I was not. It was Councilor Stalgay and the mayor that went to China, not me. But to DC, I think we go every year to advocacy at the federal level with our congressional delegations. So Congresswoman Strickland, Congresswoman Randall, Senators Cantwell, and Murray. So I think it was really good. I think three things I kind of took away from was number one, Tacoma's really leading on a lot of things. Like when we go to National League of Cities conference, people talk about all the stuff we've done, which is really cool to have people say, hey, Tacoma's doing some great things. I think that was number one. Number two, they're it's an interesting time in Washington, D.C. No matter what your political proclivities are, it was very interesting that not one member of the administration talked to anyone at our conference the whole time we were there. Every year we go, someone from administration comes up. Even last year when we were there, the vice president came and talked to us, the EPA administrator. This year, there was not really anybody that was there. And that really, I think, made us think like, oh man, we really don't have a lot of support at the federal level for some of the stuff we're doing here, which is a real challenge for us. And then I think the other piece is going there, just seeing where other cities are. I mean, a lot of cities are in the same place. I know Tacoma is unique and special. I love Tacoma. I lived here my whole life. But I do also recognize the sun does not rise over Northeast Tacoma and set over the Narrows. A lot of what we're facing is being faced by cities across the country. That doesn't make excuses for us. It just gives a reality of what we're working with. So those are my 3 things. That's a good question. Yeah. It's a great question. I know we've had different funding sources where we've taken contributions from to the people to make contributions to the general fund. People can do that as much as they can. That's something people are interested in. I think for kind of the scale of we're looking at, it's a real challenge. But I think one of the things that can help us, and if you have the ability to do so, I mean, shopping in local businesses, supporting local organizations. Supporting local nonprofits, I think would be a better choice because as we are challenged with our budget, some of our ability to contract and give money to nonprofits and support them. I don't know if any of you saw the Safe Streets email that came out recently about Darren Penn. I'm on the Safe Streets board. Organizations like that are really struggling. So I would say a better opportunity might be to shop locally, help local businesses, give to local nonprofits because they're going to be kind of feeling the next pinch from us as we're able to kind of push less money out. Pat Mayor? No, thank you.
And we do appreciate John coming as often as he can. He rushed here from another event. We do also have 3 at-large council people plus the mayor. You all saw the mayor in January. You'll be seeing Christina Walker in August. And our plan is to have those at-large positions, not people, every 3 months. So we'll still see John, hopefully every month, and Sarah most months, but we will get those other people in because they are your representative just as much as John
And
is.
the West End Neighborhood Council was complaining to me that I don't come there enough, so I will start trying to go there more often. So.
Not a good idea. Okay, thanks, John. I'd like to have Deb Anderson come up. She's going to run the next portion of the meeting.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And thanks for coming. We're going to try to make up some time here. And I'm one of the ones that bugs Peter. We've got to shorten the meetings because they've been going for 2 hours plus. But our goal is 7:30, but we may go a little over if that's okay, because the streets topic seems to be one that affects everyone. Everybody has an opinion about streets, typically, where they live or what they experience on a regular basis. But this meeting, I have the pleasure of coordinating because I am a resident near Proctor. I walk a lot. I obviously drive. Used to ride a bike more, but because it's not easy to get out of my house on a bike lane, don't do that as often. But anyway, so I have a passion about safe streets. And when we put this topic on the agenda, we did reach out and ask folks for input. And thank you to those who submitted some questions, concerns. We did share that with our speakers tonight. Again, everybody has their passion or their issue, whether it's a pothole on their street, but I tried to categorize the input based on, what we heard. Maintenance being, top of the list. Safe crossings and lighting, speed enforcement, parking, both rules and is there enough parking, sidewalks, and trees in the streetscape. So what I've asked the leaders from our Public Works and Transportation Department today is to come and share some of the work that they do. How do they prioritize projects, which we'll get into here in a second. But I'd really like to know if where possible, the takeaway could be what would we realistically expect to see happen in our neck of the woods, in our neighborhoods in the North End, whether the levy, passes or not. So our agenda will include Corey Newton, who's the Assistant Director of Public Works, and Joe Franco works closely with them, and Jennifer Camerzell, who is the Director of Transportation for the city. And Jennifer's been involved in neighborhood issues, traffic calming in the North End in the past. And one of the issues that has come up is on about North 21st and the safety. I mean, again, adhering to Vision Zero, which you heard about earlier, making that a safer arterial. It's the only one in the North End that has a 4-lane stretch. It's a major arterial. Most people have crossed it, driven it. And with the way it's designed, it seems to encourage more aggressive driving, speeding. There's no room for error. That's, again, one of the big goals of Vision Zero is, if you step off the curb, are you going to potentially get hit? So anyway, Jennifer has some history with that arterial because it was part of a plan back in 2015, and nothing happened really. Well, some crossings happened. So with that, though, let me introduce our first speaker on the Connect Tacoma levy, which is Corey Newton and team. So thanks you guys for coming. We'll have Q&A at the end as well, but again, we may run a little over, so if you want to stay, feel free. These guys will stay. So, thanks.
So good evening, everybody. My name is Corey Newton. I'm the Assistant Public Works Director and City Engineer for the City of Tacoma. And so first off, a little bit of background on me. I've worked for the city for 15 years. I'm actually relatively new to my position. So I actually started as the city engineer in November of last year. So I'm relatively new. That being said, I am an engineer, a true engineer. I love engineering. I can talk to anybody about street design or stormwater design, which was a lot of my specialty in my career. Also, one more thing. I am a talker. So when I heard there was a 7:30 deadline, I was like, what? I don't have that much time to talk. So anyways, what I'm getting at is I truly do love conversation. And I have lots of business cards I'm happy to share with anybody. If you ever want to call me or send me an email, happy to have a conversation, happy to answer a question. With that being said, I'm going to kick it off with this. All right, so just background. So when the city manager first came to us in leadership, public works leadership, and was like, we would like you to start developing, a Connect Tacoma levy, a street initiative levy. And so as part of that levy, we're like, okay, how is the best way to get feedback? And so we worked to develop this community levy committee. That community levy committee was made up of 23 members, very diverse set of stakeholders. We actually are blessed to have one of those stakeholders in the room with us, with Deb. Alyssa was actually one as well. She was here from Parks as well. So it was a really good experience to hear what people had to say. On top of the community levy committee, we actually did a lot of presentations to different boards and commissions. And the one takeaway, and I just got to share this right away. I'm going off script. Joe's probably like, what are you doing? But so the one takeaway I had is I did a presentation to the Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Technical Advisory Group, the BP tag. And I fully expected to go there and hear feedback about sidewalks and bicycle facilities and, stuff along that nature. And what I heard from them actually shocked me, and it really helped develop this package. What I heard was every roadway user, every transportation user needs to feel safe doing what they're doing. And so that really touched me, and it's made up a huge portion of our levy. The fact that that group recognized that the funding should mostly be directed towards our arterial networks or busier street networks actually made a lot of sense to me and was refreshing to hear. So you'll see that a lot as part of this package that we developed. So just to jump into this real quick. So the Connect Tacoma levy is made up of 3 investment themes: our better neighborhood streets, our safer streets for everyone, and our improved connections. I'll go over a brief description and then I'll turn it over to Joe. That works. Okay. So better neighborhood streets. So these are our residential streets. This is where we live. And I will say the paradigm shift that really occurred to us and that we're doing different with this is, when we did the First Street Initiative, the state of our roads, and I'm an engineer, and so, Deb heard me talk about PCI, but the PCI rating or the overall condition of our road network for our residential street system was in a failed state or very close to a failed state prior to the First Street Initiative.
PCI means Pavement Condition Index.
Yep,
Just want
exactly.
folks to know about that. We were told not to talk about that.
I know.
Corey's
I've been told-
talking about it
I've
tonight.
been told many a times PCI doesn't resonate with people, but I keep using it because it's really important to understand our transportation network. So in the First Street Initiative, the overall condition of our street initiative was in basically close to a failed state. And so as part of that levy, we really needed to invest in the residential streets. So doing maintenance, doing repaves, all that work. And so what I'm leading up to with this category of better neighborhood streets is you'll see us doing things differently with this levy. So as part of this levy, we want to do more of the things that council has asked us to do. So council passes these packages and these policies that basically want us to build these complete streets. And complete streets are not just a road, it's also sidewalk, it's also sorry. Oh, the slow thing is tough for me, but I will try my hardest. I am a fast talker and I like talking, so I try to get in as many words as possible. So we'll see. So anyways, council passes these policies and they're all about, these complete streets guidance, right? It's building more of a complete package. And so this is a really long about way of saying, when you see us doing residential projects as part of this Connect Tacoma levy, what you will see different is we're going to build that missing sidewalk link. We're going to plant that tree. So those other right-of-way elements that are not just a street network are planned as part of this package. So that's a brief description. I'm taking some of Joe's thunder here, but he'll go through it as well. Safer streets for everyone. So this is the bulk of our investment. 50% of the package is on our busiest streets, our arterial network streets. And again, the biggest thing here is we heard from TPD earlier that a focus of the city is on Vision Zero, right? So we want to reduce our fatalities, right? And so how can we make our busiest streets safer? And so that's why you see the bulk of this funding shifting towards those busiest streets. So it's safer crossings, it's improved signals, it's all those safety elements, streetlights, signals, all those safety elements that we know we need and will continue to invest in. And then our last one, this is actually one that I'm kind of pleased or quite pleased with, is the improved connections category. So just from an overall dollar perspective, so as part of the First Street Initiative, we did invest in what we called mobility as part of that first one. This level of investment has doubled as part of this for this improved connection. So we also recognize that it's really important for us to have safe routes to school. We have missing link sidewalk. We know trails are vital for our community and quality of life. And so this is the type of category that we'll invest in. And then last thing, just what is this levy? So what's the facts and data basically about this levy? So you can see this levy is comprised of a 1.5% gross earnings tax and a 20 cents per 1,000 property tax. That equates to $200 million over 10 years. We plan to leverage that with grants to a tune of $90 million. And I will say, we were extremely successful. So again, engineer, I love math. You talk about force multipliers. I'm also a veteran too, so force multipliers. So when you talk about force multipliers, when we can take a local dollar and multiply that many times over, we were able to achieve $144 million in federal and state grants. We took money into our community and we built more stuff with that. And so that's what this type of levy allows us to do. We are going to leverage those funds. We are going to bring dollars in. And so we anticipate at least $90 million in grant funding. And then partnership too. So we do a lot of partnership projects. So we work with parks or the school district. We work with Tacoma Water, environmental services. So we work with a lot of agencies. And what the public often doesn't see is, when we build a project, there might be a sewer project. And when you build that sewer main, you're digging in half the street. And so when we don't have the dollars to partner, what you see is half a road paved. And the other half that might be in a failed or poor condition remains the same. And what we're able to do with these partnership dollars is match those and pave the other side. So for the public, the general community, you see a brand new paved street. And that's where we want to get to as part of this levy. So next slide. I think with that, I turn it over to Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. So good afternoon or evening, folks. My name is Joe Franco. I work for the Public Works Department as a special assistant to the director. This slide that you see up here is our Better Neighborhood Street slide. This slide in particular is kind of focused on East 40th, so on the east side of the city. This is west toward McKinley. This is at about East J Street, so you can't see Pipeline Trail from this angle, but the project's also there. East 40th was a permeable pavement project led by Environmental Services. This was funded through a Department of Ecology grant, the Streets Initiative funding from the 2015 Voter Approved Streets Initiative, and also the stormwater utility. So projects like these demonstrate how transportation investments can also support safer streets, environmental improvements, and stronger neighborhood connections. Corey kind of alluded to this earlier, but one of the focuses is going to be on better neighborhood streets. I think one of the things also Corey did not mention with the 10-year package is that it's 10 years. One of the pieces of feedback that we learned from the 2025 Streets Initiative 2 campaign was that perpetuity is a long time. And we heard from voters that they did not like forever being taxed for roads. So we came back, we heard feedback from the Community Levy Committee that 10 years is probably a good benchmark again to see the progress that we've been able to do over these next 10 years. So this is a 10-year package. Total investment, and this is also codified by council, is that 26%, approximately 26% of this package is going to go to better neighborhood streets. And that is dedicated to new street paving, your pothole repairs, sidewalk improvements, and a lot of the traffic calming measures that many of you talk to us about on a regular basis. So this is going to be focused on those residential streets.
Just one more thing I want to jump in on. So those pictures, the reason I like those pictures in these presentations is it really is an example of the transformational work that a street project can do. So if you all remember what East 40th Street looked like before this project, it was definitely a failed road condition. And so these levy dollars, the ability for us to put out projects is what really makes those street transformation projects happen.
And some of you probably recognize where this is, hopefully. This is our Safer Streets for Everyone bucket. This is the St. Helens project, as well as Market Street, you can see here. This was combined with Streets Initiative funding, with grants, loans, and also developer contributions to deliver roadway improvements, crossing enhancements, and bike facilities. And then projects like this also show how we can leverage our dollars with development dollars too. As you can see, there is development all over this corridor, and that contributed to a local improvement district in that area, additional roadway projects. So moving forward, this is the biggest bucket that Corey had talked about, which is 50% of our funding will go toward arterial roadways here in Tacoma. And so the key improvements you'll see is improved street services. So this is also our maintenance bucket. I don't know if any of you were catching on, Pothole Palooza was happening around the neighborhood. That was also funded by Streets Initiative dollars, a Councilmember Hines program. So thank you, Councilmember Hines, for that. But you'll see pothole repairs, safety enhancements as well, and also more transportation connections. We also will see a lot more freight and economic development. This bucket will also help support our freight partners down at the port too. So the focus for this next Streets Initiative is going to be on arterials, or not Streets Initiative, excuse me, Connect Tacoma. Gotta put the dollar in the jar for that one. So yes, Connect Tacoma. The one thing I do want to mention too is that the Streets Initiative, many of you probably are wondering, well, what happened to the Streets Initiative? Streets Initiative was actually focused on residential streets and residential maintenance. And so a lot of the money that you see, yes, we did use it for grant match, but a lot of the focus was on residential streets. So this is a different paradigm shift to arterials here in the city of Tacoma. Anything to add?
No.
All right. And then lastly, we have improved connections. Hopefully some of you also recognize where this is, but this is the Lincoln District. And if I can get my notes, this is the Lincoln Festival, or Lincoln District and Yakima Festival Street improvements. This was funded by grants as well as Streets Initiative dollars, real estate excise tax dollars, and then also the general fund with utility contributions. This was a $9 million project, total investments focused on safety, accessibility, and also neighborhood connectivity. So, we're hoping to do more of these type of projects with the upcoming Connect Tacoma levy. But this was, a huge improvement for this business district. So Corey also talked about this earlier, but improved connections, you'll see more money dedicated to safe routes to school, ADA accessibility upgrades, sidewalk repairs, missing link sidewalks, and then also money that will go toward improved trails and multimodal enhancements. So 24% of this funding will go toward that specific bucket, but this improves really access to your neighborhood business districts and areas. So, Connect Tacoma. We do have information on the back table there. Hopefully, also some of you were past this one-pager handout. But as you can see, we had projected revenues, and we talked about it. The property tax and the total levy rate. I know we had a question about that. So, hopefully, I can explain this the right way, Corey.
I'll get you if you don't.
Okay. 20 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. So 20 cents, it is only 20 cents that will go toward roads in Tacoma. Of the $1.95 levy rate cap that you can see here on the screen. All right. So it's not going, you approve 20 cents and then next year it's going to be $1.95. I wish, but that's not the case. So it's only going to be 20 cents. That are going to be dedicated. The rest of the chunk of that $1.95 goes to general fund contributions, public safety, libraries, a lot of the other services that you get with your city government. So if approved, our levy rate will go to 20 cents per $1,000 of assessed value here in Tacoma. Now, what does that mean for the average Tacoma home? That's $846 per month. This is just an average cost for a home here in Tacoma, $500,000. And then that's about $100 a year. We also are asking for a renewal or replacement of the utility tax. That's 1.5% on utility tax, which equates to about $2 a month for folks. And then we do have exemptions for seniors and people with disabilities that qualify for those existing property tax relief programs. The other piece I do want to mention is that from my conversation with Mayor Ibsen, TPU has actually added more money to the pot for folks that are struggling with their utility bills. So there is additional utility assistance out there. And thank you to our partners over at TPU for that. But Corey, would you like to add more?
Yeah, I'm going to take a shot at explaining it a different way or a slightly different way. So we're working on a graphic to try to explain this better because it is confusing to me. And honestly, if you read the ballot language, it's confusing as well. That is written obviously by attorneys. And so there's certain words that you have to say. So this is my way I understand this $1.95. So the entire city's maximum taxing authority on property tax is $1.95. That includes all the authority for police, fire, library, general government. The 20 cents is in that $1.95. So the maximum amount that this levy could ever, generate is 20 cents per $1,000 assessed value. So there's not an easy way to say it. I think there's a visual graphic we can kind of show that shows this is the maximum. This is like just a tiny portion of the $1.95. But that's the best way that I've had it explained to me. And it's the best way, I think, to explain it to anybody else. It's income-based.
Yeah, it is income-based, I believe. And then I believe we do have a website that is dedicated to that, to seeing who qualifies for the exemptions.
Yeah, this is the exemption that's based on state law.
It is.
Understood.
Understood, yeah.
So I'm going to rephrase your question. So does that 20 cents displace any other property tax that the city is currently generating? The answer is no. So this basically adds on to the existing city's taxing authority and allows the city to tax at 20 cents per 1,000 assessed value to generate road or funding dedicated solely for basically street network transportation purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom of the poster, it said this will only replace the taxes you're paying right now. Why don't I look at that and say, gee, I've got a $500,000 house, multiplied 20 cents by 500,000. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do see what you're saying, but it's 20 cents per 500, right? So now the thing I do want to mention also is that with the property tax, lost my train of thought.
Hey,
Corey?
I'm going to jump in and so this is kind of a replacement.
It is. There we go.
We, obviously are
Yeah.
right. Understood.
Understood.
And a lot of this has to do with, and I'm just gonna be honest, legalese, right? So there's certain ways you have to write things. There's certain ways you have to say things. In reality, what occurred is that we previously had a street initiative that assessed a property tax at 20 cents per thousand. This levy replaces the same thing, though we have to be careful how we use the word replace because technically the old initiative expired and a new one is starting. But essentially that 20 cents is replaced.
Yeah, we have to abide by the rules that our attorneys have given us, unfortunately. But what we've also learned is that the impact really on an average Tacoma household is an increase of $4. I know it doesn't say that up there, but we're working on that because the initiative that expired from the Streets Initiative has expired. That was a 2025. The increase really is only about $4 for the average household. So, because this replaces that, yes. $4 a year. Yeah, we do have additional handouts. This is just one of them. We do have a full-on information packet that is going to be sent out to households that will have this information too.
So the
Great question,
packet, the final packet will have more information on it. These are just flyers for meetings such as this. That's a helpful comment. So I certainly will incorporate that into future presentations.
Levy that we're voting on, capping that levy rate is $1.95.
It is. This is the confusing thing. And I don't know how, I'll try to explain it again. The $1.95, yes, this levy basically sets a maximum levy rate for the entire city of Tacoma for $1.95.
$1.95.
And in that, the 20 cents is what this levy really is about for Connect Tacoma. The city has broader taxing authorities for police, fire, all that. When you write a ballot initiative, and I asked all these questions to our legal staff as we were developing the ballot language, we have to include that. That is a requirement that we include that maximum levy rate. So a resident can see that the maximum rate that the city has authority over is $1.95. In reality, this initiative is 20 cents. Correct.
Correct.
But it does make it look like it's a $1.95 tax. I agree. And it's not an easy way to explain it. We tried a graphic, And so we're working on a few different ways to maybe show it graphically. So hopefully we have something in the near future, because this question keeps coming up.
$1.95 would be over 10 years. I was thinking possibly city council would be able to raise the property tax rate by 20 cents every year to get to almost $2. So that's how I was interpreting it.
Right.
So you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion out there. I agree. Yeah. And on our side too, it's hard to explain, right? And so we're trying our best. We're working with our finance team also to, make sure that it's clear out there for folks that, we're not trying to get everybody up to $1.95 over the next 10 years. This is actually the end. We do have Jennifer too. Okay. So Corey, we did have some additional questions that came up.
I was just going to walk through them if you want, or I can wait till the end of. Okay.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to these slides.
Did you want to finish yours?
We'll go at the end.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Jennifer Camerzell, Transportation Division Manager. Would love to be the Director of Transportation, but not quite. Are you going to click her? No, you're good. So just the next slide. So just to give you all an idea of what I'm going to be presenting. So Corey and Joe talked about the financing and funding side of it, but I'm here mostly to talk about the different programs. How does a project become a project? Which includes the planning, the design, the funding aspect of it as well, with a little bit of a focus on North 21st. So I know this will be not my only time with y'all. There's lots of different programs we'll go through and happy to come back again. But to really start at the prioritization criteria, you might have heard we've talked about the transportation and mobility plan. So what happens with the city is how we identify projects, whether they're part of Connect Tacoma, whether they're part of just any everyday project that we've got. We really start with our 20-year vision. And so that's the comprehensive plan that I know some of y'all might be familiar with. It's called the One Tacoma Comprehensive Plan. Part of that, there's an element about transportation. And it's saying, what do we want our transportation network to look like after we've added 150,000 more population, 90,000 more jobs in that 20-year time frame? We recognize that we have to have a system that helps us support that. And so this is an couple of excerpts from the Transportation Mobility Plan. You've got the boxes on the left that talks about the goals. So we really start at that high level. Here's what we want to prioritize. You'll see things, probably a category for every project you could choose, whether it's equity and livability, safety, which we'll say is Vision Zero. There's economic development, which would be freight, port, businesses. There's centers and corridors, so connecting different folks. It's access and mobility, so it's prioritizing pedestrians, bicycles, people, ADA, people with disabilities as well, and then transit also, recognizing that we're not going to be able to, we don't want to widen our streets. We want to look at some different modes. So again, starting with that bigger policy vision. And then from there, we've come up with some different maps here on the right, which helps to kind of guide what those projects will be. So on the top there, we've got Vision Zero. We've heard that mentioned a couple times, which is really exciting that it's getting through. But helping to prioritize, where do we start? We've got enough lane miles in the city of Tacoma to go from Tacoma all the way down to Texas, New Orleans, right? So when you think about how many lane miles we have in the city, that's a lot to improve, maintain, build on. So where do we start? So that's where we start looking at what that vision looks like. We'll also use, Jody, you asked about how do we identify what streets? And so oftentimes it's based on zoning. What are the places we want people to go to? How are we connecting people to people? And so having that vision again helps to outlay what are those projects that we might be interested in prioritizing the next 20 years. So from there, we kind of create a project list. It goes through that first sieve is what I'll say about what that criteria is. And then we start looking at this next groups of 1, 2, 3, 4. What are those projects that kind of rise to the top on where they check a little bit more boxes? What are some of those funding opportunities? Then we start kind of breaking it down into what might be viable. So on the next slide, oh, sorry, I'm doing it, okay. Great. And so this gives another flow chart. So here we've got on the orange colors, that's the 20-year vision. And what we're going through now is how do we then create that to that next piece where we call it the 6-year program. So that's the more current program. So it goes from 20 years, just kind of concept projects. And now we start pulling out projects and see what we want to fund or can fund in the next 6 years. So what we do in order to do that is we start looking at what are our revenues or what are our opportunities to fund those projects. So things like Streets Initiative in the past, we were able to say, here's the money for these different projects. We can use it to apply for a grant. I'll give you some examples of that too. Here's some of those priorities. The idea is that we would eventually go through, there's 441 projects in the Transportation and Mobility Plan. And so the idea is like in 20 years, we should be able to get through a majority of them. But in order to do that, we have to do some pieces at a time. So every year we look at our 6-year program to identify those projects. Again, we look at different council priorities, different funding opportunities, whether it's through Streets Initiative, if there's a development that's happening, or even for schools, like we've partnered with Lowell and even Silas when they've done some school improvements. We've used actually Streets Initiative dollars to help say, hey, if you're paving half of the road, because they're only required to do half, is like, hey, we'll add additional funds and repave the rest of it. So we would prioritize that in our 6-year program. The development that Joe talked about to you on St. Helens, that was a developer. Again, they only had to pave a portion or do some curb ramps. On one side, we're like, hey, let's build that in. Take your funding, use it as a grant match, and build out a bigger corridor. Same with utilities, and then again, also with grant opportunities. So when people ask, how do I get a project funded? I'll say the first piece is to make sure that it's a priority in our transportation and mobility plan. And again, that usually gets updated around 8 to 10 years, which we just did last year. And then the other piece too is from there is really thinking about how can we, are there funding opportunities to then bring it forward to the 6-year program? A lot of ways to do that is also through neighborhood plans, is to help then identify what those priorities are, really think about what the community is asking for, doing some of those prioritization. Neighborhood councils in the past have done that as well. I've been with the city for 27 years. And so, even part of the neighborhood action strategies, the neighborhoods came up with those priorities themselves too. So that's always been helpful. So other ways that we fund projects, it's not just, so there's a lot of the bigger capital projects that Joe and Corey talk about, where we're, they're usually higher dollar amounts. But I wanted to share just a little bit about some of the different programs we have as well for transportation safety. And so, or just transportation in general. And these are the ones that I can definitely come back and talk about because there's a lot that I know folks want to hear about. So, we even talk about enforcement. That's a big way to help with creating that transportation safety aspect that police talked about. There's a lot of different ways to do that. They talked about, in person is for them to be out there. We know they've got a pretty small traffic unit force, so that makes it difficult. But other things that we've looked to see and see how we can leverage is through automated enforcement. So we are going to be expanding our automated enforcement program. We're rolling out in phases because, it's not about trying to make revenues with the speed cameras, but it's really, it's a proven tool to help slow people down on Bay Street, As soon as that's gone in, it's generated some revenues, but we've only had 1 fatality, maybe 2, I think, 2 fatalities since it's gone in, whereas we were seeing upwards of, 2 a year type of thing. So, and that's been in place since 2011 or 12. So that's really good, right? So we're going to be looking at increasing that. Even things like crossing guards at schools, there's a kind of a tool for enforcement when you see people, helping kids across the street or things like that. So just really looking at some different options. We are phasing the automated enforcement in. Right now we're focusing on speed cameras. As we go forward, there's 5 locations we're looking at. So it's 509, Portland Avenue, Pacific, Sprague, and North Point. So they're kind of together. And those are really based on the number of fatal and serious crashes is what we started with. We know there's more on the list that we want to go through, and we're going to work through that. Again, we've heard it's best to phase it in, and then even including speed cameras as well. And so we know Pearl Street's been, one of interest. We've talked in North 21st, what's the possibility for that? And so we'll start evaluating that as we move forward, and then also getting people sort of used to the idea, and really we want to be cautious of that messaging of automated enforcement, because at the end of the day, it's if you don't speed, you don't get a ticket, but that doesn't always resonate with people. Another thing is neighborhood traffic calming. We do have a program. It's not a lot of funding, but That's one that I could definitely come back and talk about another time, where there's a small pot of money set aside for just residential traffic calming, and that's the speed humps, the traffic circles, maybe some bulb outs. One thing we learned that I'm pretty excited about is with Connect Tacoma would be to actually integrate some of that into that levy itself. So in the past, many of you probably have called when your street was repaved and said, now that the potholes are gone, people are speeding a lot. And that's when I was like, damn, those potholes, they were so good, right? But the Streets Initiative didn't actually fund those. Those were different pots of money, and we had a commitment to repave streets, not to build speed humps or traffic circles. So a lot of the times you'd get a really nice street, but you might see, speeding increase. Correct. Yep. So this time we're building it in, especially on the arterials, right, to help slow traffic. And the goal of what I'm seeing in Connect Tacoma too really is building the streets right, to really to connect people, but then also to make it, a more whole type of project. We also have Safe Routes to School, another different program. We fund that through, city council funding. We also will be able to partner with Streets Initiative Pass. There's, as Corey mentioned, a really specific focus in Connect Tacoma to help do more of those, so that it's not just the 2 schools we do each biennium, but really, if there's a project, how can we make those crossings or make those connections better? Active transportation, we've got a small program again. If there's, ADA requests for curb ramps or, push buttons, we've got that as a partnership. And then also sidewalks, pretty small. We have 408 miles of missing link sidewalks in the city. And so right now we get about 450,000 a biennium. That's going to take a little while to get those missing link sidewalks in, but we've got a small program to help support that. And then we're always looking for partnerships on any, if someone's got a project or is interested in a project, street project, we'll work with, again, private development. We'll look if utilities are doing work. Local improvement districts are really popular, or kind of bigger in the West End, North End. And Streets Initiative has helped to partner with those improvements as well. So that's another partnership. Sorry, I'm going fast, yeah. And then, so now the meat of it, North 21st, I know Deb's asked about it. And so lots of history behind North 21st. So just a quick timeline is that really this came to, I guess the city's always known about it, but really became a project, started out in 2015 when TPU had to replace those power lines. And so the question was, where should they replace it? And that was our time to think, where should they go in an effort to create that vision of North 21st in the future, right? If it's centered, it would impact what the lane configuration looks like. If it's, offset, those types of things. So we were trying to get a little bit more ahead of the game, knowing TPU would never replace those poles again. So on the heels of that, the city had done quite a bit of community outreach and done a traffic study to evaluate what could be done, which included eliminating a lane or 2, one in each direction, so that we could build out the sidewalks and then add even bike facilities too. I'll show you a couple of those cross sections, but since then, or at that time, we actually did apply for a grant to do the engineering behind that. Unfortunately, it didn't score well. And when I say score well, grants usually have a criteria, to check some boxes, whether it's crashes or, does it provide mobility? What's the funding level? Are they getting the most for their money? Unfortunately, it did not get funded. And so what we did then is we took a portion of those funds, the match funds, and then some Streets Initiative dollars. And then what we did is we did the pedestrian improvements. So there's quite a few crossings that were along 21st. I think it was between Proctor and Pearl, where we improved the curb ramps and then even the push buttons. So maybe not as visible to most people, but pretty big to help reduce some of those barriers. So these were the cross sections at the time that the neighborhoods, communities had looked at, right? It was, where would the pole go? That's kind of specifically what was the conversation. The city actually had done a traffic study, which I'll show on the next page, that showed it was actually reasonable, it was feasible to eliminate a lane in each direction, recognizing though that the turn pockets, so where you turn, like at Proctor Street, was really important, because if you didn't have that, it would back up. And then what we don't want to do is, so congestion's okay, right? We all can slow down a little bit more. We just have to build in, some of that added time, just for safety purposes. But when you do back it up too much, people start diverting off, and going through the residential streets because we've got a great grid system. And we don't want that, but we want it so that people stay on the road. So we took all that into consideration, but we'd eventually said, you can get rid of one lane in each direction and add some turn pockets, maybe make them longer. Oh, let me go back. So based on that, it was generally moving forward with the community, but at the time there was some dissent by folks that actually didn't want to get rid of a lane in each direction. And it created a little bit bigger of a problem and some confusion on what we were moving forward with. And so after the grant didn't move forward, which would have included that engagement and design, we kind of shelved the project. Also knowing it wasn't scoring well in a grant, so we kind of shelved that project. We recognize that there's some new life and hopefully some of that mentality of safety, slowing down, adding more time, is a benefit and helps with livability. Definitely something we can start reevaluating. It's a project that's in the TMP, Transportation Mobility Plan. A big piece of it is we just don't have the funding for it. And then that kind of brings back to that funding partnership side. So kind of tying in all of what Corey and Joe talked about, plus everything else that we've got. So this is directly from the Transportation and Mobility Plan and just talks about some of the different funding sources that we do use in order to do as many projects as that we have. So, Streets Initiative in the past was a really big contributor. Grants actually are how we primarily fund a lot of our projects. When you think about in 2015, we estimated North 21st from Pearl to Proctor was going to be about a $20 million project. And so we realized we're going to have to phase it in. There's just no way, we would be able to secure that much money or that a grant actually would have that much to offer. They usually do more like maybe 2 million. So we use a lot of different partnerships to move forward. Yeah. Yep. So we used all of that traffic information. So we got a speed study, and I'm happy to send that to you. I did find it. And it talks about the volume of traffic, the number of cars turning at the intersections. They even did a little model of, you can see the cars kind of moving around and see what the delay looks like. But it talked about the speeds, which very reasonable. We would look at reducing the speed limit on 21st as part of any design, right? We don't need a road, urban road going 30 miles an hour anywhere. So definitely including all of those. Oh, I don't know, but I can find that for you. Yeah. So just next steps about that. So curious, right? Folks want to know how to move forward with North 21st more specifically, but for any project, it really is looking at that community engagement. Also leading with the lens of if this is the right design or solution for safety purposes or, for that corridor, it might be something where the city says, we will be removing a lane, right? And it's always helpful though that we've got general community support behind something like that. It would be looking then to at a conceptual design, so figuring out, what is that need? How much might it cost? Are there partners that could chip into it? And then even what would be a phased approach too? And so Deb and I have talked about, could it be just striped? Take one lane out and stripe it now. Some of the challenges with that is if you do interim improvements, granting agencies see that as not favorable because you've already done an improvement that sort of works. So they usually like to be, I'll say, the savior of a project, right? Creating that final piece. So it might be more like we do Union to Proctor, just, west of Proctor type of thing or something further. So it's just being really conscientious and not, shooting ourselves in the foot in the future for any funding opportunities. So that's something we're always playing that funding financing game of it too. And so this is our contact information. Happy to answer any questions you have. And if a lot of the programs I talked about, happy to come back again.
I guess for the sake of time, I think it might be easier if we ask or just answering questions. So I think I'll start there. And if there's no conversation, I'm happy to jump in.
Mason has 2 streets, it goes across. Okay, that's where a lot of the kids come from the junior high down to the grade school to pick up their brothers and sisters. What we're finding, since it's a dip, the cars are really going fast down there, and even if the light's flashing, they're not stopping and kids are almost getting hit. So can you concentrate just on one area, since you can't do 21st, but maybe that crossing a little bit more than what you have?
Absolutely. And those types of improvements, those school improvements, those safe routes to school, the Vision Zero, the crossings, reduce the safety stuff. Yeah, that's absolutely a target of this package. So, you know,
if,
not to get into specific
Yeah,
locations, because I can't say this will do that. But in general, that's the type of improvements that.
but if redesign is too costly, we're not going to get the funding for it. I mean, there are other ways to enforce speed, and
100%.
that's which are not as costly. So that's, you know, again, is that something that do we bug John Hines and Sarah for that, or speed monitoring signs, you're going this fast, slow down?
I mean, honestly, I'm always up for a conversation, so I'll leave my business cards. Happy to chat. And also Jennifer is a great resource as well. If you reach out to me, likely Jennifer.
Yeah, the speed cameras aren't slated for our neck of the woods anytime soon, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just starting the expansion, honestly, right? And so we're trying to gauge how well it goes, and also even from a staffing perspective, whether it's police or mini court, having to do all the citation review or trying to work to see if Public Works can help out. But depending on how it goes, we do see there's opportunity for geographical equity, as long as we can justify a camera. So we're going to look at, crashes and then also speeding side of it. So I think there would be opportunities to
Or a new speed study, or?
Oh, yeah. For every automated enforcement, we would do speed studies, but even on North 21st, I think we can get some of that through the camera. So yeah, let me look at what they'd had previously and what was done most
Great.
recently.
Thank you.
Over here, Russell.
Okay, I'll try. So shortly, I have one little bit of a history question. I just want to understand, when they built a lot of these streets here, why is it that sidewalks go for a little bit and then stop, and go for a little bit and then stop? So that's a history question. How did that happen? And second question is more futuristic. Are you aware that in Europe now they have the asphalt that repairs itself? And can you get that for here?
Now we're starting to talk stuff that I absolutely enjoy. So perpetual pavements, I think I could have a conversation with you about that forever. It's a balance of cost, I guess is what I'll say, on a perpetual polymer-based additive, stuff like that. It is significantly more expensive to do something like that than a traditional street section. But that's something that we are always looking into. So that type of stuff, I absolutely love to have those conversations. I'd love to chat about that. On the sidewalk stuff, just a history. A lot of Tacoma was built by LIDs. So if you go back and look at old street designs, which I often do as an engineer, just to understand project history. Yep, local improvement districts. So it's a type of funding when Tacoma was first being developed, developers, when they were planning lands, they used this financing tool called a local improvement district to fund those improvements. And so what you often see is you see these built out sections, and then it stops, and then you'll see another built out section. And a lot of that was based on these local improvement districts that happened, early 1900s, I guess probably more mid 1900s-ish.
Sidewalks were not part.
What required?
They're not required back then.
Yeah.
It's a great question.
I think that, well, in the 70s, ADA first became a thing. So I think it was 78 when the first ADA Act was passed. And then 2005 was the next generation of the PROAG, so the Public Rights of Way Access Guidelines. So for Tacoma, when did they become required? Relatively recent history, 2000s.
Hi, I just wanted to reinforce what this woman said about 21st and those blinking lights. I'm up and down 21st all the time, and you can tell the kids don't even look. They think that light's flashing, that cars are going to stop instantly, so it's really scary. Okay, my other question is, what is the purpose when you're redoing the streets and the sidewalk, that you pull the sidewalk out into the street, like they did at Lowell and along 6th Avenue? Is that to slow cars down?
Oh, the bulb outs, right? Yeah, yep. So it's a couple things. So one, it does act as a traffic calming measure, but more importantly, when you think of like safety of a child crossing, for example, those shorter crossing distance, if you think the time it takes in a narrower area versus a longer area, that's actually a AASHTO measurement. So there's a guideline for the national standard that measures these things. And so that's the suggestion is in order to, help with child safety or any pedestrian safety, it's really to shorten those crossings. It's intended to be a protected, Jennifer, you want to?
It's just really quick. So it helps you to slow down as a driver because you feel narrower, right? And my analogy is you're on a freeway, there's no cars, you drive pretty fast because you're comfortable. Now you drive down the freeway, you've got two semis on the other side. Your lane is still the same, but you tend to drive a little slower because you feel closed in. It's that visual trees, right? On Union Avenue, you drive slower because you feel closed in. So those bulb outs provide a little bit of that same piece of it, right? Drivers will do what they do, but it helps to do that. One, it helps also to have kids or anybody crossing around a parked car. So if there's a car parked there, you're not waiting to look around, you actually are further out. And then again, it's a shorter, narrow crossing. Bulb out or curb extension?
Yeah, I have a question about your data map that shows where the accidents are happening, the serious injury accidents and death accidents. And it looks like Tacoma is two cities. And, it looks like there's a lot of accidents in the south and east, and not very many in the north and west. And I'm wondering, are the streets really that different in the two parts of the city? Are you really confident that the design of the streets is the reason for those accidents, or is there other factors that are involved here?
Both. I'd say street design is a big factor of it. If you look at where those fatal and serious crashes happen, they're typically on the 4-lane roads. So it's like your Pacific, your Portland. They're also the ones where you see the longer corridors. So people might be just traveling through versus, neighborhood to neighborhood, where North End, West End, usually it's people that might be traveling through, might be going to SR 16, to Gig Harbor, but the distances are a lot shorter. But yeah, each year, even our monthly, so we do have a dashboard on Vision Zero that shows the monthly crashes, and they're generally matching that too. Yeah.
Yes. We're happy that there's many more pedestrian crossings, and we like the central island on the wider streets. The problem is that there's parking right up to the crossings or bushes. So we've seen several situations where somebody is waiting to cross, and even if there's a flashing light, they look and the cars are going by and you can't see the person on the crossing. In other cities and countries, there is a no parking zone on either side, both sides of a crosswalk. So maybe 3 cars of length, you are not allowed to park. Here, particularly with the size of the vehicles and pickup trucks, you can't see the person waiting to cross.
I'll jump in and then I'll pass it off to you. So on the, sight triangle, so the ability to see an oncoming object, there is a sight triangle calculation that we do as engineers to make sure that there's appropriate clear distance and no obstruction for a view. So that's something we have to do. We do that. If you see an instance where you think that's become a problem, feel free to send me an email. I actually just had, Kit just actually sent one similar to me, and I had some engineers go out and take a look at it, and we'll see if we can do some maintenance out there. On the parking distance, we also have a requirement that we have to follow, so we don't allow parking within 25 feet. I was trying to think of it, 25 feet of a crosswalk. That's, it could be increased more, certainly, but that's the requirement. Yep. I will say 311 is probably the better answer than email me directly, only because it's tracked, but I love conversation, so I also don't mind that.
Does anybody have any more questions about that tax increase and what the max cap is? Because John also can further explain it if it's still confusing.
Sorry. All right, I'm going to explain the property tax is the devil's work. It's the hardest thing in the world to explain, but I'm going to try it. So if you go to your property tax right now, like I did, you'll see that for the city of Tacoma, you pay $2.08 per thousand. That is the current property tax levy the city collects, $2.08 per $1,000. Of that, the city of Tacoma collects $1.68 for our general fund, and 50 cents is paid for the EMS levy for emergency medical services. So 168 plus 50, $2.08. So what we're doing when we say the cap of 195 is the city is statutorily limited at $1.95. So people are gonna be asked to vote for 20 cents for the streets, which would take you from $1.68 to $1.88. But let's just say the current property tax levy was, say, $1.88 already, and then we voted for 20 cents. City couldn't collect all 20 cents. We would only be able to collect what's remaining between whatever it currently is and that $1.95 cap. So that's why it has to be there. But people have asked me, well, how much are we actually going to pay? You're currently paying $1.68, the general fund right now, and if this passes, you'd pay $1.88. Now, something to clarify for people with sales property tax, which is really confusing, is there's a 1% property tax cap in the state of Washington. So what does that mean? So if let's say there's 100 people in the city, and our property tax levy is $100, how much is everybody paying? $1 a year. Let's just keep it simple. Next year, we can go up by 1%, which is 101. Then we take that number and we divide it by the number of people paying taxes in the city or properties, and that's what our levy rate is. So even if your property values go up through the roof, we're only able to raise what we're able to collect by 1% a year, unless people vote for other things. So it gets confusing because people think, well, my property values went up $100,000. Is my property taxes going to follow that? No. We're capped at we're only allowed to collect 1% more each year, which is why when inflation's 4% or 5% and that's growing at 1%, it's a real challenge for us. But anyways, that's it. What was I going to ask? Yeah. For me, for them, who got? Yes. Ooh, fill the pothole. Oh, man. I did have a Fill the Potholes theme song. I don't have my lyrics in front of me, but it's something around, I'll do the first one. When you're driving down the street and you feel it in your feet, like you tripped on a wire and now you got a flat tire, it's fill the pothole. There you go. There's a bunch of verses for the Fill the Pothole song, but that's the first one. It sounded more like Bill Nye the Science Guy the last time versus a rap that I wrote the first time, but there you go. Yes.
All right. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
So we got to let these guys go home, and I appreciate everybody staying, hanging out a little bit longer. Very much appreciate you guys coming. And for follow-up questions, we will submit that. We've taken notes here, so we'll collect and send. And yes, I think Beth, who just left, is going to reach out about something near the schools where people are parking to pick up kids. They're confused. Anyway, thank you so much. Do you want to say anything else? Oh, thank you. Thanks, guys. Again, really appreciate it.
So thank you very much. We heard Jennifer say a couple of times that she was going to come back and fill in some of the gaps. So we will be putting that in the agenda for the future. Next month's I'm going to jump over unfinished business, new business. Before we adjourn, next month we're going to have an update on the Home in Tacoma program. We all spent a lot of time talking about Home in Tacoma before it was actually voted on. So it's voted on, it's implemented, they have some things happening, and they're going to come and tell us about it. So hopefully we'll see a lot of you next month for Brian Boudet doing that. We're also having an update on the library. We try to get the library in at least once a year. So the library will be coming in and giving an update on what's happening at the library. That being said, those of you that lasted out, and I think we've still got some people hanging around for extra questions, thank you so much, and we'll see you next month. Good night.